Most people assume that being in a relationship is always better, no matter the age. For some people over 60, staying single can actually be the healthier and wiser choice. I know that might sound surprising. After all, we've been told all our lives that love is the key to happiness, that we're supposed to grow old with someone, that having a partner is the ultimate sign of a fulfilling life. But the truth is, that's not always the case. In fact, for many older adults, being in a relationship can bring more stress, financial strain, and emotional exhaustion than joy. And yet, because of societal expectations, many people hesitate to embrace the possibility that staying single might actually be the best path for them. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever felt pressured to be in a relationship simply because that's what society expects? Have you ever worried that being single in your 60s, 70s, or beyond means you'll be lonely? If so, you're not alone. But here's the truth, being single doesn't have to mean being lonely. It doesn't mean missing out on happiness. In fact, for many older adults, staying single allows them to live a healthier, more fulfilling, and stress-free life. In this video, we're going to explore 5 key reasons why staying single after 60 might actually be the best choice for you. Now, let me be clear, this isn't about saying relationships are bad. Love can be wonderful, and for some people, having a partner later in life is a great thing. But it's not for everyone. And that's okay. The goal of this video is to help you see that you have choices. That being single can be a powerful, fulfilling, and even liberating experience, especially if it means living a life with more peace, more financial security, and more personal happiness. So, if you've ever questioned whether a relationship is truly right for you, or if you felt pressured to settle down just because that's what society expects, then keep watching. Because this might just change the way you see your future. When we think about relationships, we often focus on love, companionship, and emotional connection. But one of the biggest, yet least talked about, aspects of being in a relationship, especially later in life, is finances. And here's the hard truth, after 60, combining finances with a partner isn't always a good idea. In fact, for many people, it can lead to stress, financial loss, and even regret. Let's break this down and look at why staying single might actually be the smarter financial choice. For most people over 60, income sources are more limited. You may have a pension, social security, retirement savings, or investments, but the days of actively building wealth through full-time work are often behind you. This means that every financial decision you make matters. Unlike when you were younger, you don't have the luxury of time to recover from bad investments, unexpected expenses, or financial mistakes. Now, let's consider what happens when you enter a relationship later in life. You may have to combine expenses, merge assets, or make financial sacrifices. Your partner may have debts, financial obligations, or medical costs you weren't prepared for. If your partner is financially irresponsible, their actions could impact your stability. The bottom line. If you've worked hard to build financial security in your later years, you should think very carefully before sharing it with someone else. Many people don't realize just how expensive relationships can be. It's not just about splitting rent or groceries, it's about lifestyle changes, unexpected financial burdens, and even legal implications. Think about this, when you're single, you have full control over your spending. But in a relationship, you might find yourself spending more on, eating out more often, date nights, social events, and travel can add up. Helping a partner with their expenses, covering rent, medical bills, or debts. Moving in together, a new living arrangement might mean higher costs. Legal complications, if you get married or cohabitate, it could impact your assets, estate, or even alimony obligations. This is why many financially independent older adults choose to remain single, because they want to protect the financial security they've spent a lifetime building. One of the biggest reasons couples break up, at any age, is money. But as we get older, financial conflicts can become even more damaging. What if you're a saver, but your partner is a spender? What if you worked hard to stay debt-free, but your partner has credit card debt or unpaid loans? What if your partner expects you to financially support them, even if you don't want to? These financial tensions can lead to stress, resentment, and even legal battles. And at this stage of life, do you really want to be arguing over money? Staying single gives you financial peace. No arguments. No surprises. No unnecessary financial risks. For many older adults, their most valuable financial resource isn't their monthly income, it's their savings, investments, or property. And here's where things get complicated. If you enter a relationship, your financial security could become vulnerable in ways you might not expect. Marriage or cohabitation can affect inheritance plans and estate distribution. Your assets could become legally tied to your partner, even if you never intended them to be. A divorce or breakup later in life can have major financial consequences, especially if assets are legally merged. I've heard too many stories of older adults who entered a relationship, trusted their partner financially, and then lost a significant portion of their retirement savings in the process. This is why financial experts often recommend keeping assets separate and thinking carefully before making financial commitments in a relationship. Let me share the story of Janet, a 68-year-old retiree who had been financially independent her whole life. She had a paid-off home, a comfortable retirement fund, and no debt. A few years ago, she met someone and fell in love. They moved in together, started sharing expenses, and eventually combined some of their finances. But what Janet didn't know was that her partner had outstanding medical debt and was financially struggling. Over time, she found herself covering more and more expenses. When the relationship ended, she was left with less than half of what she had originally saved for her retirement. Janet's story isn't uncommon. And that's why financial independence matters. Here's the takeaway: being single after 60 doesn't just give you financial freedom, it gives you personal freedom. You control your money, your choices, and your future. You don't have to worry about someone else's financial baggage. You can focus on living life on your terms, without the stress of financial conflicts. I'm not saying relationships are bad. But I am saying that if you've worked hard to create financial security, you owe it to yourself to protect it. So before you rush into a relationship, ask yourself, is this really in my best financial interest? Love is often seen as the ultimate key to happiness. We're told that finding a partner will make us feel fulfilled, secure, and emotionally complete. But what if I told you that, for some people over 60, being in a relationship can actually bring more stress, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion than peace? At this stage of life, your emotional well-being should be your top priority. And for many older adults, staying single is the best way to achieve that. Let's be honest, relationships aren't always easy. They require compromise, patience, and effort. And while that can be rewarding, it can also be exhausting, especially later in life. Think about it. Do you really want to spend your 60s, 70s, or 80s arguing over small things? Do you want to deal with disagreements, emotional baggage, or the stress of adapting to someone else's habits? Different lifestyles and routines, you've built your habits over decades. Adjusting to someone else's can be frustrating. Emotional baggage from past relationships, many older adults have been through divorces, heartbreaks, or losses, which can create trust issues. The pressure to constantly compromise, being in a relationship means making sacrifices. But at this stage of life, do you really want to give up the things that make you happy? This is why many older adults choose to stay single, not because they don't believe in love, but because they want to protect their peace. One of the biggest dangers of entering a relationship later in life is falling into an unhealthy or toxic dynamic. By this age, many people carry deep emotional wounds, past betrayals, divorces, or long histories of difficult relationships. And if you're not careful, you might find yourself in a relationship that drains your emotional energy rather than adds to it. For example, have you ever met someone who is overly controlling or possessive? They want to dictate how you spend your time and money. Uses guilt or manipulation. They pressure you into making sacrifices for them. Brings unresolved baggage into the relationship. They still carry anger from past relationships, and it spills into yours. Expects you to be their emotional caretaker. They rely on you to meet all their emotional needs, leaving you exhausted. At this stage of life, you've earned the right to peace. You've earned the right to be happy without dealing with unnecessary emotional stress. And for many older adults, staying single is the best way to ensure that. When you're single, you have complete control over your emotional well-being. You can focus on what truly makes you happy, without having to worry about someone else's expectations. You can spend your time doing what brings you peace, whether that's reading, traveling, or simply enjoying your own company. You can prioritize your mental health, without dealing with the emotional ups and downs of a relationship. You can focus on self-growth, learning new things, building deeper friendships, and living life on your terms. Many older adults who remain single say that they feel more emotionally balanced, more at peace, and less anxious than they ever did in relationships. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest fears people have about staying single: loneliness. Society has conditioned us to believe that being single means being lonely. But that's not true. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a choice. It means enjoying your own company, embracing independence, and finding joy in solitude. Being lonely is a mindset. It's the feeling of emptiness that can exist even inside a relationship. And here's something to think about. Have you ever felt lonely inside a relationship? Many older adults have. In fact, some of the loneliest people are those stuck in unhappy relationships, feeling isolated, unheard, or emotionally neglected. But when you're single, you have the power to create meaningful connections on your own terms. You can build deep friendships, join social groups, and engage in activities that truly fulfill you. Let me share the story of Linda, a 72-year-old woman who spent decades in a marriage that made her feel emotionally drained. When her marriage ended, she was terrified of being alone. She thought she'd never feel happy again. But over time, something changed. She started focusing on herself, rediscovering old passions, making new friends, and traveling solo for the first time in her life. And do you know what she says now? She says she has never felt more at peace. She no longer worries about emotional conflicts. She no longer feels pressure to meet someone else's needs. She is finally free to live life on her own terms. At this stage in life, your emotional well-being should be your priority. You deserve peace. No unnecessary emotional stress or conflict. You deserve happiness. Free from toxic relationships or emotional baggage. You deserve freedom. To live life on your terms, without compromise. Being single doesn't mean you're missing out. It means you're choosing yourself. And that's one of the most powerful choices you can make. But what if I told you that, in many cases, staying single can actually lead to better health and a stronger sense of independence? The truth is, relationships, especially later in life, can sometimes limit your ability to focus on your well-being. They can introduce stress, unhealthy habits, and even restrict your ability to make the best health choices for yourself. Let's talk about why staying single might actually be the healthier choice. When you're single, you have full control over your health decisions. You decide how to eat, when to exercise, and what lifestyle choices to make. But in a relationship, especially later in life, you often have to compromise. And sometimes, those compromises can negatively affect your health. For example, have you ever been in a relationship where your partner had unhealthy eating habits that influenced you? You found yourself drinking more, eating out more, or skipping workouts because of your partner's lifestyle? Your partner wasn't as active, and it affected your own motivation to stay fit? These small lifestyle changes add up over time. And they can be the difference between staying strong and healthy or slowly declining. When you're single, you can fully prioritize your own health without having to adapt to someone else's habits. And while supporting someone you love is admirable, let's be honest, it can also be overwhelming, exhausting, and even damaging to your own well-being. Many older adults who enter relationships later in life don't realize that they may eventually become full-time caretakers. This means sacrificing their own physical and mental health to take care of a partner with serious medical needs. This can lead to increased stress and emotional exhaustion. Constant worry and responsibility can take a toll. Physical strain, lifting, assisting, and caregiving can lead to injuries. Less time for self-care, your own doctor's appointments, exercise, and personal needs might get neglected. This is why many older adults prefer to stay single, not because they lack compassion, but because they know that their own health must come first. We've all heard that stress is a silent killer. And scientific studies show that chronic stress can contribute to heart disease, high blood pressure, and weakened immunity. And guess what? One of the biggest sources of stress, at any age, is relationship conflict. Think about it. Have you ever been in a relationship that made you feel more anxious than happy? More exhausted than energized? Now, imagine carrying that stress into your 60s, 70s, or 80s. Would it be worth it? Studies show that older adults who maintain low-stress lifestyles tend to live longer and healthier lives. And for many, that means staying single and focusing on peace over partnership. One of the greatest gifts of being single later in life is the ability to maintain your independence. You don't have to answer to anyone. You don't have to adjust your routine to someone else's needs. You don't have to rely on another person for your happiness. When you're single, you can make your own daily schedule, wake up when you want, eat what you want, and do what makes you happy. Travel freely, no need to negotiate plans with a partner or compromise on destinations. Live where you want, stay in your home, relocate, or downsize without worrying about someone else's preferences. Make health decisions that suit you, choose treatments, doctors, and wellness routines based on your needs alone. Independence doesn't mean isolation. It means freedom. And many older adults find that staying single allows them to live their most fulfilling life. Let me share the story of Robert, a 67-year-old who was in a relationship for several years after his divorce. Over time, he noticed that his partner's unhealthy habits were affecting his own lifestyle. They ate out more, drank more, and exercised less. When he tried to make healthier choices, his partner resisted, saying, "We're too old to worry about that now." Robert had a choice: stay in a relationship that made him feel physically worse, or prioritize his own health. He chose to be single. And now, he's stronger, healthier, and more independent than ever before. Here's the truth: your health and independence are the most valuable things you have. No relationship is worth sacrificing them. At this stage of life, you should be focused on living with energy and strength, prioritizing fitness, nutrition, and self-care. Reducing stress and emotional strain, avoiding unnecessary relationship conflicts. Maintaining independence, making decisions that are best for you. Staying single doesn't mean giving up on love. It means choosing to love yourself first. As we age, many of us start thinking about the future, our health, our independence, and how we want to spend our later years. One of the hardest realities of aging is that, at some point, either we or our partner may need extra care. But here's something people rarely talk about: if you're in a relationship later in life, you may unexpectedly become your partner's full-time caregiver. This can be emotionally, physically, and financially draining, something many older adults aren't prepared for. Today, we're going to talk about why staying single can help you avoid the strain of caregiving and allow you to maintain your own well-being. Most relationships start out happy, full of companionship and shared experiences. But as time goes on, things can change. Aging brings health challenges, heart disease, mobility issues, dementia, and more. And often, one partner ends up becoming the other's primary caregiver. Now, being a caregiver for someone you love isn't a bad thing. It's an act of devotion. But it's also one of the hardest, most stressful jobs a person can take on. It's physically demanding. Lifting, assisting with daily activities, managing medications, and driving to medical appointments can take a toll. It's emotionally exhausting. Watching a loved one decline in health is painful, and the stress of constant responsibility can be overwhelming. It takes away personal freedom. Your daily routine revolves around the other person's needs, often leaving no time for self-care. Many older adults enter relationships thinking about companionship but don't realize they could soon be playing the role of a nurse rather than a partner. This is why some people choose to stay single, not because they lack love or empathy, but because they want to avoid the unintended burden of full-time caregiving. Caregiving is one of the most stressful and exhausting roles a person can take on, especially in later life. Studies show that older caregivers are at higher risk for depression, anxiety, and even physical health issues due to chronic stress. In fact, many caregivers suffer from burnout, feeling constantly drained, overwhelmed, and emotionally exhausted. Increased health problems, lack of sleep, higher blood pressure, and weakened immune systems. Isolation, caregivers often withdraw from social activities, hobbies, and friendships. Financial strain, many spend their savings or quit jobs to care for their partner. Some people think they'll be able to manage. But the truth is, caregiving can take over your life. And at this stage, shouldn't you be focusing on your own well-being rather than putting yourself under that kind of pressure? If you're single, you have full control over how you handle aging and health care. But in a relationship, your choices may be limited. Imagine this. You enter a relationship in your 60s, thinking you'll enjoy companionship and travel. But within a few years, your partner develops serious health issues. Suddenly, you're not planning vacations, you're managing doctor's appointments. You're not enjoying peaceful evenings, you're assisting with mobility and personal care. What started as a loving relationship now feels like a full-time job. And here's the hardest part. You may feel obligated to stay, even if it's hurting your own well-being. This is why many older adults choose to stay single, so they don't find themselves in a situation where they're forced to sacrifice their own health and happiness. Now, let's be clear, staying single doesn't mean ignoring the reality of aging. It just means making sure you're focusing on your own well-being first. Instead of entering a relationship where you might become a caregiver, you can make a personal health plan. Focus on your own physical and mental well-being. Invest in professional care. If you ever need help, you can choose assisted living or in-home care without relying on a partner. Build a strong social support system. Surround yourself with friends, community groups, and loved ones who can support you. Stay independent. Maintain the ability to live life on your own terms without being tied to someone else's health struggles. By choosing to remain single, you are choosing to protect your own future. You are ensuring that your later years are filled with freedom, health, and happiness, not stress and exhaustion. Let me share the story of Carol, a 68-year-old woman who fell in love later in life. She and her partner, Jim, had a wonderful first few years together. But when Jim's health began to decline, Carol found herself in an unexpected role. She was suddenly responsible for managing his medications, helping him move around, and sacrificing her own time to care for him. She loved Jim, but the stress became overwhelming. She was exhausted, had no time for her own health, and felt trapped. Eventually, she made the difficult decision to step away from the relationship and focus on her own well-being. Now, she's healthy, active, and living life on her own terms. Carol realized that while love is important, so is self-care. And for her, staying single was the best choice. At this stage in life, your happiness and well-being should come first. You are not responsible for being someone else's full-time caregiver. You deserve a life free from unnecessary stress and exhaustion. You have the right to prioritize your own health, freedom, and future. Caregiving is one of the hardest roles a person can take on. And while it's a beautiful act of love, it's also a massive responsibility, one that many people don't realize they're taking on until it's too late. By staying single, you're making the choice to focus on yourself. You're choosing health, independence, and peace over obligation. And that is one of the most powerful choices you can make. Most people spend the majority of their lives fulfilling obligations, raising children, working demanding jobs, supporting a family. But after 60, something changes. This is your time. A time to rediscover who you are and what truly makes you happy. Yet, many older adults enter relationships that unintentionally limit their ability to explore personal passions. They find themselves compromising, adjusting, or even giving up on dreams they had put on hold for decades. Staying single means you don't have to sacrifice your interests, goals, or personal growth for someone else. You have complete freedom to explore whatever excites you. Let's talk about how staying single can help you fully embrace your passions and live life on your own terms. One of the greatest challenges of being in a relationship, especially later in life, is the constant need for compromise. Let's say you love to travel, but your partner prefers to stay home. Or maybe you've always wanted to take up painting, but your partner thinks it's a waste of time. Or perhaps you dream of volunteering for a cause, but your partner isn't interested. In relationships, decisions about how you spend your time often have to be made together. But when you're single, you have the freedom to do exactly what you want, without permission, without guilt, and without compromise. At this stage in life, you deserve to put yourself first. You deserve to pursue what makes you happy without someone else's approval. When you're single, you have an incredible opportunity to focus on personal growth. Think about it. How many times in your life have you put off learning something new because you were too busy taking care of others? Now, you finally have the time to invest in yourself. Being single means you can dedicate time to learning a new language, travel the world with confidence, or simply challenge your mind. Taking up a creative hobby, painting, music, writing, photography, the possibilities are endless. Going back to school, many universities offer free or low-cost classes for older adults. Exploring spirituality or mindfulness, meditation, yoga, or personal reflection can bring deep fulfillment. Starting a new business or side project, turn a lifelong passion into something meaningful. The beauty of being single is that you get to decide what excites you and what's worth your time. One of the greatest joys of later life is the ability to travel freely. But many older adults find that being in a relationship makes this more complicated. Maybe your partner doesn't enjoy traveling. Maybe they have health issues that prevent them from going on long trips. Maybe they have different interests when it comes to destinations. And suddenly, instead of exploring the world the way you always dreamed, you find yourself staying home, or going places that don't excite you. When you're single, you can travel on your own terms. You can visit the places you have always wanted to see. Travel for as long as you want, no need to cut trips short. Join travel groups for solo adventurers and meet like-minded people. Experience different cultures without having to adjust to someone else's preferences. Staying single means having the freedom to explore the world exactly the way you've always wanted. Many older adults discover that, once they reach their 60s, they have an intense desire to create or contribute to something meaningful. Maybe you've always wanted to write a book. Maybe you've dreamed of learning to paint or play an instrument. Maybe you feel called to volunteer and make a difference in your community. When you're in a relationship, you may have to prioritize shared activities over personal interests. But when you're single, you have full control over how you spend your time. You can wake up every day and decide, what do I want to do? What excites me? Many single older adults find deep fulfillment in writing books, memoirs, or blogs, painting, crafting, or exploring artistic expression, volunteering for causes that matter, mentoring younger generations, creating music, poetry, or photography that tells their story. Staying single gives you the time and space to fully embrace your creativity, passions, and sense of purpose. Let me tell you about James, a retired schoolteacher who spent decades working and raising a family. After his divorce in his early 60s, he considered dating again but realized he had spent his entire life focusing on others. He wanted to do something for himself. So, he stayed single, and rediscovered his love for music. James picked up the guitar again, something he hadn't done since his 20s. He started writing songs, performing at local events, and even recording his own music. He felt more alive than he had in years. Now, James says staying single was the best decision he ever made because it gave him the freedom to truly live his passion. At this stage in life, you deserve to put yourself first. Being single doesn't mean being lonely. It means having the space to explore what makes you happy. It means traveling without restrictions, learning without compromise, and creating without limits. Most importantly, it means choosing passion over obligation, freedom over restriction, and self-discovery over compromise. So ask yourself, what have you always wanted to do? What dream have you put on hold? Because now is the perfect time to make it happen. We've covered a lot today, 5 powerful reasons why staying single after 60 can be the healthier, happier, and wiser choice. From financial freedom to emotional well-being, from maintaining your health and independence to avoiding caregiving strain, and finally, the incredible ability to pursue your personal passions, each of these reasons highlights something important: freedom. The freedom to live on your own terms. The freedom to prioritize yourself without guilt or compromise. The freedom to embrace this stage of life as an opportunity, not a limitation. And that's what it all comes down to: having the power to choose what's best for you. Now, if you're in a happy and fulfilling relationship, that's wonderful. Relationships can bring love and joy. But if you've been questioning whether staying single is the better path for you, know that you're not alone. Many people over 60 are making the choice to embrace their independence, to prioritize their health and happiness, and to live life fully, without restrictions. And if you choose that path, it doesn't mean you'll be lonely, it means you'll be free. Free to travel, to create, to explore, to connect with others in ways that feel right to you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on staying single after 60? Do you see the benefits, or do you still feel relationships are the better choice? Let's start a conversation in the comments below. Share your experiences, your thoughts, and your perspectives. I read every single one, and I'd love to hear your take on this. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people find content like this. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, so you never miss a video about living your best life after 60. Remember, this stage of life is about you. About your happiness, your freedom, and your future. And no matter what path you choose, you deserve a life that brings you joy and fulfillment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.